Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with another vlog, and this one was actually a question I put up on my post recently. I had asked what kind of videos you guys would want from me, and I did get a request that I thought was a great idea. It was from @Jan Reads Most of the Time, so thank you for giving me this option. And that is to do 5-star recommendations, and if they like measure up to what I'm expecting, if they are going to hit that 5 stars or not. And I thought that was a great idea. I've seen some booktubers done that, and I haven't ever done it before. So I thought I'd get it started today because I am about to start reading an arc that I really think is going to be a 5-star. This is one of my favorite authors, Julia Wolf, and it is To the Chase. So I have been highly anticipating this book, and I am expecting it to be 5 stars for sure. She never disappoints me, and so I'm pretty sure this is going to measure up. So I do want to do To the Chase. So I'm going to start that today. And then the other one that I was thinking of doing was one of Elsie Silver's. Now, I am in the middle of trying to read the Gold Rush Ranch series, and then I also need to read Wild Side. So it'll be one of those, but I'm thinking I might do the one that was already like on my TBR for sure for this month, and that was The Front Runner. This is the third book, I believe. Yeah, the third book in the Gold Rush Ranch series, and I've heard really good things, and I've been really excited for the hero, Stefan Delka. He just really intrigued me because he's like this billionaire asshole, like sexy guy. So, you know, that's my thing. So I think that this one for sure is going to be a 5-star. So for sure, those two I'm going to do. If it'd probably be too long if I did a third book knowing how I talk. But we'll see how this vlog goes. Maybe it won't go my usual way where I tell you every single thing about the book. Who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do, guys. But anyways, this is just a quick little intro before I get started on Julia Wolf's new release. I just was about to start it and I realized, oh, this is a 5-star prediction. I should do this one. Anyways, I will check in with you guys. I'll start this vlog now, and I will see you once I get, you know, a little bit, at least probably like 30% into To the Chase, and we'll see how it's going so far. Hey guys, I am already back. I am just diving into this book, To the Chase by Julia Wolf, and I'm loving it. No surprise. I have been highlighting like fucking crazy in this book. I'll dive into some of my thoughts here in a second, but first, like, kind of let me tell you what's going on here. We have B, and she is short for Beatrice, but she only goes by B by everybody, and she's a fiery, feisty, sexy, like, she has blue hair, she's curvy, she's just like some people compare her to kind of like a Marilyn Monroe, like very sexy. And she is actually a previous book from a different series. She was like teamed up with Clara to do like food catering and stuff. And then when she ends up moving, she's kind of running on her own now. And so she's still doing that and being a waitress because she doesn't have enough jobs lined up. And she ends up going to do catering at this business that's like an IT, like big AI kind of company type of thing. And she happens to run into Tor, which is Salvatore. And she has history with him. She knows exactly who he is, and he kind of acts like he didn't. Sorry, let me adjust this here. He acts like he didn't know who she was. So that like really pisses her off because he kind of ghosted her. A couple years ago, they had gone on like this amazing date, and then he ghosted her. And so we don't really find out what happens till like almost the end of this, like 30% where I'm at. Like on their dates and stuff. So this kind of has a couple chapters where it's like the past, a couple years ago, and then now. So he like basically they had, when she was a waitress, he came in with his business partner. He had actually owned his business. It was a set in LA, and this is in Denver. And he keeps going to her thing when he's in meetings in Denver with his friend, and he's very intrigued by her, very interested in her. And she's like, kind of like, she's a pretty bitchy girl, you know, she like can be kind of rude and tell it like it is, but for some reason she gets like butterflies around Tor, and she's like she mentions when she brought his drink, she did like the usual kind of boob, you know, thing to deposit his drink, and she does that for better tips. And he happened to like, his ears turned pink and he got all like flushed, and she thought it was so adorable, and she just was really started to like him. And so one time he comes in finally by himself, and he asked her to like sit with him if she can. And he basically asks her out. And so they are going to go out on a date. And so that's kind of like your first flashback to seeing them like from the past. And so she's kind of thrown off because like he acted like he didn't know who she was. And then his office manager ends up kind of scheduling her to go in every week for a weekly catering gig. And so she runs into him again. And at one point she was like, you know, because he asked her out on a date. Like, so he starts setting up where he is very set on his routine, his schedule, and he will always be in his office or whatever. But since she started doing that, he all of a sudden was setting up early before the meetings that they have with his laptop so he could be in there with her. And she first made kind of small talk with him, but then when he didn't again acknowledge their history, she was like, fuck him. You know, I'm not going to say anything. I'll be nice, but I'm not going to say anything. And then he actually asked her out on a date, and she just can't believe he asked her out on a date. And he still doesn't acknowledge what happened with them. And she's like, sorry, I don't give dates or whatever to people that, you know, 1 strike, 2 strike, definitely not with 2 strikes, and you're at 2 strikes. And he's like, what's the second strike? And she's like, think about it, and then you can talk to me. And so there's this crazy scene where he ends up like following her to the elevator one day, like, and then he's on his phone hitting it, and the elevator shuts down. So she's stuck on the elevator with him, and she's like, you just stopped the elevator, didn't you? And he basically says, you know, look, I really want to tell you what happened. She's like, oh, so you do remember me, you know? And he's like, you know, I want to tell you what happened. I want to explain what happened in the past and whatever. If you could just give me a chance, and, you know, I can explain things to you. And so she agrees to like meet him at his house or whatever, and they're going to talk it out. Another side thing that's going on is that she has these neighbors. She has like her dog that's like this really cool, big, goofy dog. And these neighbor kids, like there's like a teen girl, a little girl, and then a boy. And the teen girl's kind of, you know, angsty teen and watching the kids, but they like befriend the dog. And there's this app that like you can go like schedule like or reserve people's like backyards to play with your dog in, and she ends up going, and it's their house. And so she gets to know them, and she's like, really like, I'm not a kid person, but these kids are like kind of stealing my heart. And this little like teenager was like, you know, all broody because they have money and this and that, but she wants to get a job and do stuff on her own. And so she actually offers her to like do an assistant job for her at like with her catering. And she's like, why am I doing this? But like the joy and happiness that little girl got on her face, she was like, okay, I have to do it. And so like you kind of learn their parents had died, or I think their mom died. I don't think they know who their dads were. I can't remember the dad situation, but the mom had died, and they were living with their grandpa and their uncle Sal. So to me, I'm like, so obvious, this is Salvatore. And so even just knowing about, then when you do a flashback for their date, and he's talking about his older sister and her kids and how like they live in Denver, so he does want to kind of be close to them because he's thinking about moving to Denver. But really like this is the deciding factor was this date with her. Like then he really wanted to move. But him bringing up his sister and her 3 kids and all this stuff, it's like you kind of already know what happened. Like especially when the kids said their aunt had died, their mother had died. So already I kind of knew, oh, okay, so like that's what was a trigger or something. She must have died like right at that point that's why he ghosted her, which that's kind of what you find out. So I don't think Julie Wolf's trying to make that vague. I think it's pretty supposed to be obvious, but we're seeing B learn the truth when she finally goes to his house and gets that information. Before that, we actually get their date, and it was the sweetest date. He's like so awkward, and he like, you know, takes her out, and they're constantly like touching. They're always like sitting next to each other, their legs touching, brushing each other, hand holding. It's so cute. They go up to like her favorite like rock that she goes out and they sit at, and they really like talk. They just talked so well. Like no first date goes like that. And they immediately connected on such like a deep level. And so he invites her back to his hotel, and they start to like really make out, and she's starting to take his shirt off, and he like stops it, and he's just like, I want this not to be a one-time thing, so I need us to go slow. Like I need it to be, and she's just kind of thrown off. At first she's like hurt, like what? But he's like, I really want to get to know you and spend time with you and have this be something special. Like, I don't want, you know, to rush through this. And so they literally like hang out, eat desserts, and drink coffee. And then like he massages her feet, and like they fall asleep in bed together. And so then he has to go to his meetings, and he's like, I'll see you tonight. I'll come by the bar when I'm done, you know, with meetings. And then he ghosted her. So then, you know, we kind of know what happened, but she goes to to his house, and it's all packed up because he's probably about to move in with his grandpa and his like nieces and nephew, you know? And then he kind of explains to her everything that happened. And she feels really bad for him, but she's like, I'm not the same girl I was back then. I'm like more of a realist now, and I'm not willing to like open my heart up and get hurt again. And this is a thing like that they brought up on their date. So let me go to my highlights here real quick because I gotta find this. Oh yeah, because he also learns about like her mother and like her whole situation where she was basically kind of raising the siblings on her own, and the mother like was with this other guy, and she had to get out of that like the situation, and then her mom kind of like cuts her off, and she can't even talk to her siblings anymore. So he ends up saying, he's like, no one takes care of you. And he's like, if I had a say, that would change. And she's like, feisty female, is like, who says I want someone to take care of me? And he says, in this case, it isn't about what you want. It would be what I want to do for you. And she said, if that freaks me out, he said, I would chase you until you're not afraid. So we're going to get this chasing kind of, I don't know. Are we going to get some primal play? Because there's some hints here. I hope we get some primal play in this, because that would be amazing. But he says, so, but you like the idea of being chased? She's like, maybe if it was you who caught me. And he says, heat flooded my groin, my chest, my gut. The idea of prowling through the dark to hunt her down struck me hard and fast. And suddenly I needed it to happen. Find her, win her, capture her, keep her. This wasn't me, but maybe it was with B. And I loved that. So when they have this talk at the end of this thing, and she's kind of saying, I don't think we can do this. It's not right now. And he's trying to say, like, is it ever a thing? You know, eventually we could be together. And then, hold on, let me go back here. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. Okay, so she says, you should know I'm not easy to catch anymore. And he says, I don't mind the hard work. And she says, good night. And then he was like, to the chase, B. So there we go. That's the title, To the Chase. He's going to chase after her and get his girl. Now, another side thing that I will mention, and it's pretty obvious from the get-go, is she was asked to be like on one of this group to try out this new app. And it was kind of like an AI support kind of system app, and you chat with it and it helps you and whatever. And I was like, dude, this is Tor. Like, obviously. So, and then we get to like, we know for sure it's him, because like this, like one point she was sick, and all of a sudden soup gets sent to her, like all this stuff, you know, to help her. You know, I have a feeling the house she got is because of Tor, because when they went on the date, they drove by this like black house with like a black fountain, and she's like, oh, that's the house that I would want, but I would never be able to get it. And so I was always kind of wondering, if you're working like multiple jobs but barely getting by, how do you live in a house in the same area that's where Sal's gonna live? So I think he probably got that for her. Another thing she told the AI is how she would need to be getting more jobs, like 2,000 more to be able, 2,000K a month to be able to stop the waitressing job. And then all of a sudden she got additional jobs. So, I mean, this guy is just the actions. This is something that Julia Wolf does so well, is like the acts of love, the acts of care, what the men do. She writes the most swoon-worthy heroes ever. She just does. And another thing about this that was so great that ties to Sweet Like Poison, she's talking to him about how he like basically went into college at like 16. And it was really hard for him. He was very socially awkward and get kind of bullied. And he said Elena, who is the heroine from Sweet Like Poison, actually, like, they were kind of bullying and making fun of her, saying, oh, she was dating him. And she's like, yeah, he's hung like a freaking horse. Of course I'm dating him. And, like, it totally helped. And she kind of kept that rumor up, and it totally helped him get chicks. And I'm just like, I love Elena. I love her. I love her. So there's a lot going on here. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm already gushing, and I'm only 30% in. I'm loving this. But what I want to say about Julia Wolf is the way she writes romance and attraction is so different than like other people, because nowadays you get constant like, oh, my cock jumped, or my cock twitched, or oh, look at her tits and her ass and whatever. And while he's super attracted to her and noticing those things about her, he does it in a different way. She writes it in such an interesting way. Even like the female's perspective of not getting like, oh, my nipples got hard. If I read that one more in a book, she writes it in a very interesting way, explaining why she's attracted to him. And there was one point when he was like, oh yeah, saying something was like the second thing he noticed about her. And she's like, oh, what was the first thing? My boobs? And he's like, no, when you were mean to a customer, I liked it. And so it was like her personality was the first thing he noticed about her. I'm telling you, I love this man. I love him. I love him. So I highlighted a couple parts that I want to kind of like say here, because to show as example of why she does this so perfectly, that you feel their connection, you feel their like the chemistry, you feel the attraction without it being like just sexual. And I just love that about her. So let me find this real quick. Okay, there's going to be a couple points, and these might seem stupid to you, okay? But these are things that I notice now because I'm so sick of smut thrown in my face or just physical attraction. So him just talking about her nose, okay? I know this is weird, but he says her nose was pointed at the end, delicate and cute, a ski slope from the side. It was anachronistic in comparison to her other features, which were almost erotic in their femininity. Tilted, almond-shaped eyes, puffy pink lips, strong dark brows, high cheekbones, a soft jawline, all of it creating the most exquisite face I'd ever laid eyes on. But her nose told her story. It twitched and crinkled, scrunched and flared. Sorry, I flubbed on that one word, so just ignore that. Okay, so hold on. Let me find the other thing that I have here. Okay, so here's another part where he says, between the cuff of her pants and the top of her shoes was the barest strip of skin, 4 inches at most. Just the top of her foot. I got caught up in those inches and couldn't look away. That delicate pelt stretch, the graceful curve over fine bones, the flash of a tattoo before it disappeared into the hem of her pants. Even the teasing glimpse of toe cleavage had me short-circuiting. I think this guy has a foot fetish. But I just find this so... I just love this type of writing, this type of like explaining attraction, explaining what interests you, what, you know, how they first kind of interacted and have this interest in each other. Oh yeah, so the other thing is that he said, the first thing I thought when Beatrice Novak walked into the restaurant was Marilyn Monroe. His dad is like super old school, watches the classic movies and is those like pinup old fashioned beauties. And so that's where he kind of like gets his old fashioned behavior from. But I'm just loving this, you guys. I'm loving it. I'm already talking way too long. So another long vlog it's going to be, but I just wanted to rave about this so far. There is another thing that I'm seeing is going to be an issue is his friend that was the partner, like had offered her money to flirt with him way back in when they first met. And she was like, I'm not taking that money, you know, but he ends up Venmoing her after their like amazing first date, but she sent it back. And so I'm wondering if that's going to come up to haunt us later. I hope not. I'm worried. I'm always worried about a third act, you know, always worried about it in the back of my head. But anyways, I gotta go. I am gonna go get back to reading. My AC is not working. It keeps turning on, but like no air is coming out. So I'm stressed out about that. And it's freaking like 85 degrees in my house right now. So anyways, I will check back in with you once I'm a little bit further in the book. Hey guys, so I am here back with a quick check-in. I promise this is going to be a quick one because my first check-in was way too long. And, you know, I don't want this vlog to be too long with going over 2 books. So anyways, I'm just going to sum up some really great things that are happening. This book is blowing me away. I'm smiling while I'm reading it. I am swooning over freaking Tor, Salvatore, Sal, whatever you want to call him. He might be up there with Elliot, like as my favorite Julia Wolf hero. Who knows? He might even take the place. I don't know. The book's not done yet. But anyways, him and B finally kind of comes around to like deciding, yeah, I do want to see him. I do want to give it a chance because she's like, am I just holding out like to be petty or because I'm, you know, to be stubborn? And I really love that about her character. So she really kind of thinks it through and then decides next time he asks her out, she says yes. And she ends up meeting at his place, and it's like all set up really nice, and they have like kind of have this cute date. And he comes back in the room, and she had left a note like, if you want me, come chase me. And so we kind of have a primal play. It's a really soft primal play. It's like her hiding in a bathroom, him chasing her down. They get all wet in the shower by accident. They're like making out, ripping off their wet clothes. He's chasing her throughout the house. But the thing is this primal play, he is the king of consent, okay? So like even as he's chasing her down, he's like, oh, can I kiss you? Oh, can I do this? Are you okay with this? Which is really adorable, but at some point I'm like, just fucking do it, man. Just do it. And I love later on one of their other dates, she's like, I love that you're asking. I love that you want my consent. She's like, but you don't need it. Like, I'm all in. I want it. And she tells him, you know, that maybe next time we do some play, we should just have a safe word instead of you having to ask. So then they come up with a safe word. So I love how honest they are. They're really brutally honest. Although she still hasn't told him about the money thing that had happened with his friend and his business partner from when they first met. And she's had a couple chances to tell him. So they've had a couple dates. They're really hitting it off. They've kind of messed around. They didn't fully have sex during that primal play. And then another date, they end up going out to go see one of his favorite artists. And he accidentally double booked where he was supposed to go to a dinner with Sam, his business partner, who's been really kind of shady, trying to push him to go public, trying to like push things onto him that he's always said it's a no-go. And you kind of get this vision of Sam as kind of took advantage of him. She finds out that he was the one that came up with the name Tor, that changed his whole look, that was like trying to help him become better with people when they were in college and stuff. But really he's just like kind of manipulating and kind of controlling him. And so with the stuff that's going on now, it makes it even more shady. And then she knows how he had tried to pay her for her to go out with him, so it's even more shady. But so she ends up going to the dinner that he was supposed to go with after they go to the art our thing, and it's really a shady situation again with Sam trying to do something with these other people that he wouldn't want to go into business with and would never talk about this stuff with. And so he gets really upset, and B tries to like kind of take over that situation. And then they go back to her place, and he ends up like going on down on her like multiple times and getting her off multiple times. And he was just like, no, this is about you. Like, I don't want anything. This is just everything to me. I mean, this guy is so fucking swoony. Like, he's perfection. But when all that stuff is going on with Sam, and I think his name's Sam. Yeah. And he's like telling her about the past, and she's like upset with the way he treated him and stuff. That was her opportunity to say something. So that kind of frustrated me. And I just know Sam's going to do something, because then they have like it out the next day. And he's like, oh, I was surprised you were with B. Like, I thought that would just be a fling. And he's like, I don't do flings. You know, I'm all in. I'm serious. And I love him. He's like, I don't need your input on my relationship. Like, you don't have a say. And he's like, well, I don't know if B would be the right fit. Beware of her intentions. And he's just trying to like manipulate and like guide, you know, Tor to do what he wants him to do. And so I just have a feeling this guy is going to start shit between him and B, and I'm worried about it. But other than that, their relationship is beautiful. They are so sweet together. I mean, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But I only want to do this quick little check-in because I don't want to make this vlog super long. But I'm absolutely loving it. I'm about 60% through, so I will probably do my final check-in once I finish the book, and we'll see where this book lands, what kind of rating it's gonna get. I think we know by how happy I am, but you never know. With the third act can mess up a book, so we will see what happens in the third act. All right, I will see you guys once I finish the book. Hey guys, so I am here with my final check-in on To the Chase, and I had to sit with this for a bit because I didn't know how I wanted to rate this one. I did really love this book, as you can tell from all my two previous check-ins, that I was really close to like thinking this has got to be a 6-star read, because I love Salvatore so much, and it was just making me giddy. I loved all the way he described her, his attraction, how obsessed with her he was. He was just so swoony. I love him. I just really was adoring it. But then right around like the 60-something% mark, we got to the conflict, which Julia Wolf did this recently, where she did like a mid-book kind of conflict instead of having this third act conflict, which I really appreciated because it allowed the couple, I believe it was Hold the Line. And I really loved that because it allowed the couple time to like really work through things like we're dealing with it earlier on in the book. So I had some issues with the conflict in this one. Now, we have the AI thing that he is like basically been a hidden identity almost, him being the AI supporting her, him basically doing all these things for the last couple years to help her life be better, but it's him kind of getting involved in her life. They are stalkerish type of things. You know, he had basically bought the house that she wanted to live in, and made it like it was like a fell in her lap type of situation, hooked her up with that. He does things through like learning from the AI conversations and that app to like help her life. So, you know, and then we also have the other thing that was looming of her getting paid by his stupid friend Sam to go on the date with him originally and flirt with him and stuff. So those are the things that I'm thinking over my head. This is going to be our third act conflict. What's going on? And this is not what the conflict ends up being. And I think the reason Julia did this was to kind of make it so it wasn't the obvious conflict, the obvious things you're worrying in the back of your head. But the conflict felt really stupid to me because it wasn't those things. She didn't even care. When she found out about him being like the AI thing, she thought it was cute. She didn't even care. He also used to like kind of like drive by her and know where she'd be at, like in his limo, just to like keep his eye on her and see her. For like the last couple years, he would be doing that. She didn't care about that. But what ends up happening in this conflict is she is over with the neighbor kids, which I don't know if I mentioned this in the last one, but It's pretty obvious those are his nephew and nieces, because, you know, his sister died. Their uncle's called Uncle Sally. It was just so obvious. How did she not put this together? It just felt very obvious. But anyways, so she's been spending time with those kids. And, you know, B's like so adamant, like, I don't do kids. I don't do kids. I don't want anything to do with kids. Because her mother was a pretty bad mom, and she basically kind of had to raise her siblings, and it really like kind of messed up her childhood. And when she wanted to go out on her own, her mom basically like cut her off, and she never got to have contact with her siblings for like the last 10 years. And so she's had this like diehard view of like, I don't do kids. And so she keeps saying, I don't do kids, yet she's really great with like her friends' kids. And baby and everything. And she's really good with these kids and really cares about them a lot. So it's like, yeah, B, you do kids. So anyways, what this conflict is she's over there one day, and the younger girl ends up like breaking her arm, like getting hurt, and she goes to the hospital with them. And then, you know, Salvatore shows up, and he's not surprised to see her because he knew it was going on. And he had planned that night to basically tell her everything. Like, he was ready. He was waiting till they were like really together to be able to tell her everything. And then like he sees her, doesn't act surprised, and so she feels betrayed. And she felt like he manipulated her and had her get to know these kids. And she's like, I don't do kids. I don't want kids. And now you come with 3 kids, and I don't want that. And she was like all pissed off and basically ended things with him because he had to take on his sister's kids, which was devastating for him to lose his sister. They were so close, and she was very protective over him, and she's this amazing mom, and he really had to turn his whole life around to take care of these kids. And, you know, and then now she's cutting him out because, oh, I don't do kids. I just found it a little ridiculous. So needless to say, she does get over it, but I thought she was being very stubborn. It takes a while. And then finally, like, they get back together and everything. So like, that frustrated me. Like, so there's some things about B that I loved. I loved how confident she was. I just couldn't relate to her. I'm not this curvy Marilyn Monroe type of like over the top confident chick. I just thought it was a little much sometimes, but I also really loved her. But there were parts like this where it was very stubborn and like selfish, kind of like, that frustrated me with her. So needless to say, that part kind of brought this down from a 6-star for me. It's still fantastic. I still loved this book because she does be a really great support system. She, you know, they slowly start being together again. You know, he wants her to like move in with him eventually. Like, you know, it's a, you know, a period of time, like a few months of them doing this. And all the while, Sam's doing shit behind the scenes. He tries to like break them up by like firing her through like one of his like office manager's emails. So Sam is shady as fuck. And so that's what's really heartbreaking is, you know, Salvatore realizes he'd made him, like, he was basically gaslighting him, their whole friendship. And he was trying to mold Tor, who he made him change his name to Tor, even though he went by Sal, you know, change his, you know, kind of feel like he was dependent on him when he really didn't need this guy, Sam. And so he was just very manipulative. And so, you know, he's basically finally learns he's betraying him and doing some shady shit, and he's going to have to get him out of the company. So that was really sad. And then, of course, he throws in about how he had to like pay that girl to be with him. And what I loved about that, though, was like Salvatore was like, I don't know if I believe that. I have faith in her. I trust her. And he's like, and if it started out that way, I don't really care because we're good. We're for real. We're real now. So anyways, I don't want to go on and on about this, but, you know, he doesn't jump to conclusions and end things and start a big fight. And then we actually find out that she had given that money back and actually texted him right away to give him the FYI of what happened. But his friend had deleted those texts. So anyways, all of that to say, he gets out of the company. Everything's good. Him and B are living together. You know, they're going to get married and all that kind of stuff. And it had a sweet little epilogue. So I really loved this. So I didn't give it 6 stars. I ended up settling with a 5-star because of how frustrating that one conflict was. And I thought B was being very kind of selfish and narrow-sighted and just like not like she was just being stubborn. But I still really liked her, and Salvatore like really made this book for me. He's very top book boyfriend material. Julia Wolf always writes very swoony heroes. She's so good at it. And so I gave this 5 stars. And then I think I gave it like 2.5 chilies. So I had a great time. So first 5-star prediction, it landed. It was exactly what I was expecting. So I can always trust Julia Wolf to give me a good 5-star. So I'm happy with that result. So I am not sure which book I'm going to read next for this vlog, so I will check back in once I get back to another book, but I do need to read another arc right now, so I'm not sure when I'm going to be back with this vlog. We'll see. All right, guys, thank you so much. I will see you once I figure out my next book. Hey guys, I am back. I am back with this vlog. I am on to my next 5-star prediction. And I did decide to do The Front Runner by Elsie Silver. I was going back and forth between The Wild Card and I think it's The Wild Card, right? The Wild Side, sorry, not Wild Card. Wild Side. I think that's it. Anyways, whatever. And this one. And I decided to go with this one because I have been really loving this series, and it's one of my goals to finally finish the Gold Rush Ranch series this year. And I was excited for this one because this is I think his name's Delka. I thought it was DeLuca. Anyways, it's Stefan, but I think it's his last name's Delka, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyways, this is Stefan, and we have met him in the previous books in this series because he is kind of a rival, like, horse owner, kind of up against the Gold Rush Ranch. He tried to buy Billy's horse, Dee Dee, and he tried to buy this horse and really kind of in an underhanded way, and Billy hates him. So I loved that book. I love the first book so much. Billy is like one of my favorite heroines, but she really hates Stefan. And he also had owned but he also had a jockey that was like a total sleazeball. He actually tried to hurt Violet, which is the heroine from the second book, and she actually happens to be Cade Eaton's sister, so that's fun if you love Heartless. But he actually, the jockey, like tried to like mess with her in the race, and she ended up getting injured and everything. And then he also kind of like came onto her but in an aggressive way, and then tried to like kind of sexual assault her, blackmail her. So, you know, they hate him because of these things, but he had no idea that his jockey was a sleazeball. And so there is an thing happening in the beginning of this, because Mira is our heroine, and she is actually the vet. She works like with both him and the Gold Rush Ranch, and she's this very strong, feisty kind of beautiful woman, and he is very drawn to her. And so they had interactions in the past, and she calls him on his bullshit and tells him about the jockey, and he's horrified. He's against any man hurting a woman, especially from his past, because his father actually would beat his mother pretty badly, and I think there might even be more abuse from his history. And so he's not okay with that, so he immediately fires that jockey and stuff. So like Mira sees the good in him, and she sees a good side to him, but he does come off like cocky asshole to other people. And in the beginning of this book, we have a really tragic thing happen, because Dee Dee is our favorite, horse, and he had actually he had his first baby, basically a foal, but the mother died in giving birth. And so now this foal is like really struggling, and then at around that exact same time, Stefan had a mare that her baby died, and so now it's like Mira comes up with the idea that in order for this new foal that's like doesn't have, he's really struggling, he can't, be getting the proper milk and everything that he needs. So she takes that foal over to Stefan's ranch to be able to hopefully bond with the mother that lost her baby, and then could get the milk from that. So it's very, very sad. But again, this series, what I love about it is the love of horses. You can just tell Elsie Silver loves horses, and it was a lot about horses. And I just love that. Like, that's like the biggest takeaway and the most emotional parts of these books. Like, I almost gave the first book 6 stars because I fell in love with the horse Dee Dee and the relationship that Billy like builds with this horse and how beautiful it was. So that's one thing I'll say with each of these books. The horse love is just on point. If you are a horse girly, you will love this. So like Stefan is actually like he kind of has been trying to get Mira to go out with him, and it's been a running joke, and she just constantly denies him because her best friends hate him. And so he's like, okay, I'll do it, but I want 3 dates. And he feels kind of bad, like I shouldn't have done that, but like I'm willing to go after what I want. And he's very wishy-washy, where he wants her to see that he's a good man. He's drawn to her, but he also knows he really needs her as his vet. She's very impressive. She's an amazing vet, and she cares so much. She's like running herself ragged, taking care of all these horses and everything right now. And she's just very like dedicated. Yeah. So they're going to do these 3 dates, and it's just beautiful to watch Stefan like fall for this little foal, and like how the mayor accepted the foal, and like he ends up naming him because they hadn't named him because they didn't want to like get attached at first. Billy was scared to name him. So he names him Loki because they literally took a quiz, like a personality quiz of like Marvel characters or something, which I freaking love. I'm a Marvel fanatic. So when he actually came out as Loki as like his personality, so he ended up naming the foal Loki. And so they actually do a date where like he was supposed to take her out to a fancy dinner, but he couldn't because he actually is taking in his sister. His sister's like really struggling. I think there's even more trauma in her background, but he just has been able to take her in now. And their parents like both died in a plane crash. So like his father, I think he flew planes and might have crashed the plane, and his mother died too. And that's kind of why he came to this town, because that's where she grew up, and she had always wanted to own horses and have like a ranch and do all that. And so sorry, the wind's like blowing the hair in my face. Okay. And so that's why he started this, he's super rich and he has a bunch of money, but like this is what he puts his time and money into. And so he did it all for his mother. So you just see so much good to Stefan. And so he's taken in his sister, and she's kind of struggling and dealing with stuff. And so he ends up making dinner, and they just hang out with his sister. And it's like really sweet. So there's all these like slight little touches, like touching the hand of the back. And they were even the foal started to like get lethargic, and he was very worried about the foal. So he like called her over, and she got him fluids because he was dehydrated. And they're just hanging out together, sitting on the ground with the horse, and like they're holding hands. So it's just very sweet. I'm really, really liking it. I like Stefan a lot. And again, I just love the horse love in these books. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm only about 30% through. So I will check back in with you guys once I get a little bit more than halfway through the book. But so far, I am really loving it. All right, see you on the next clip. Hey guys, I am here with my final check-in. Yes, my final check-in, because wouldn't you know it, I just decided I didn't really want to stop reading. Last check-in, I was at 30%, and now I have finished The Front Runner. And I was just having a good time with it, and I didn't feel like stopping. And it's just been kind of a tough week because I've been doing so much at work with this new promotion that I got, and training, and just a lot going on that I've just been worn out all week by the time I get home. My mom is going through a lot of health stuff, so She had to go to the hospital, and so that's been additional stress. So it's just kind of been all over the place. But I really had a great time with this. It's not the book's fault that I was like kind of not checking in. I definitely was loving this book. So kind of, I don't even know fully where I left off, but I'm just going to kind of sum up what I can, since this is like, you know, the other 70% of the book, and how I felt. So basically, you know, Stefan had wanted to get those dates out of her, but he quickly, because he is like a very misunderstood hero. Everybody thinks he's like this shady businessman, like, you know, corrupt, or like, you know, they just look at him badly. Luckily, Mira's never seen him that way. She's always seen the good parts of him. But like, he quickly feels really dirty doing that. Like, he doesn't want to force her to go on dates with him, and he kind of backs out of it. He's like, hey, you know what, you don't have to do these dates with me. Like, that was messed up, and you know, we don't have to do that. And but actually, Amira really wants him to kind of do a fake dating thing with her when she goes home for like kind of like a family reunion, because her family is, a lot of them are kind of pressuring her to be in a relationship, even though she's this very successful, driven veterinarian. They like think like, well, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? All that kind of stuff. And like her father was Indian, and then her mother is like kind of like this hippie white woman, I believe. So she has like that different kind of cultural background that I really loved. So when he goes to this dinner, he ends up like immediately like helping the grandmother prepare stuff, and I just love that. Like, he immediately gets down, gets to work. He really loves how big her family is, and you know, he didn't have that good family. He had a horrible father, and you know, an abusive home life and all of that kind of stuff. So he really loved seeing that. But what I loved about this is things are going great, but one of her aunts starts pressuring her about when she's gonna have babies, and he like kind of lays into her, but like in a good way. I don't know, he wasn't like total condescending jerk, but he stuck up for Mira, and he was like, would you be saying that if she was a man? Like, he's like, you know, she's very successful. She's a driven veterinarian. Like, why does she need to have a baby, you know, or get married or whatever? So I loved that. And she had kind of stormed out and was like embarrassed, and it was raining outside, and they just like really start kissing and getting into each other. And so it was super hot. Like, I loved it. I love Stefan. So they end up kind of continue dating and seeing each other, but they're doing it in secret. She's like, doesn't want her friends to know, because Billy really hates him. Billy is like holding on to that grudge like nothing else. You know, she's the heroine from the first book, and you know, but she's like really falling for him. They have so many sweet and tender moments together. She ends up hiring his little sister to be like her assistant, and so his sister is like thriving better. The sister was going through a lot at the school, and kind of like this sexist principal, and so she was really struggling, and you know, he was very worried about his sister. So him and Mira and his sister bonding was like really great. So like, they just had this crazy connection. Like, they're so hot together. At one point he takes her to this kind of charity thing so that she could see that he got that jockey like arrested and stuff, because she had told him she thought that jockey, I don't know if I brought this up in the previous clip, but he's like this scummy jockey that he had worked for him. He fired him once he found out how shady he was. But she thinks he was like drugging like the horses, giving them, you know, steroids and stuff, and so he ends up getting him arrested. But anyways, Stefan is just amazing. He's so good at dirty talk. They have like amazing sexual chemistry. Like, they're so great together. She never really cared about sex, but like, of course, Stefan brings it and kind of rocks her world. And so, you know, I'm kind of summing up a lot of stuff because it's like a lot of the book that I didn't do check-ins in. But basically, like, they're in secret, which he doesn't really love. But I thought, okay, is this going to be an annoying thing where she hides the relationship, the entire thing? And I was going to be annoyed. And really one time she was going to a girls' night with the other girls, and Billy starts like kind of talking shit about Stefan again. And she kind of just says, fuck it. And she tells them and like defends him. And then basically is like, yeah, I'm with him. And I loved that. Like, no balls, like she doesn't hold back. She just like, and it even was like, oh yeah, fondling his balls, and she like, Billy was saying something sarcastic and she's like, I'm doing a lot more than fondling his balls. I just loved that. So, but what was crazy is she told them, and he didn't even know she told them, so he still thinks she's like hiding things, for like hiding their relationship. So what goes down is, you know, he's really opened up to her about his background, about his father, about how abusive he was. But he even opens up more about the fact that he had learned that his father wasn't his real father. And so his real father was supposedly had met his mother in this town. And that's kind of why he's there too. He wants to find his father. And he was like a bartender at the place when they worked together. And so Hank, I think it's Hank, is the like lovable like ranch hand guy that works for Billy, and he was a bartender. And so she thinks it's him because when she looks at it, she's like, oh my god, he looks just like him. And so she doesn't want to tell him and then it not be true, or like make things more dramatic. And so she's planning to like look into it on her own, get more information before she tells him. But of course that blows up in her face. And he kind of finds out that she hid that, and he gets very upset. Like, you know, like, I trusted you with my past and you were hiding this from me, and I don't trust you. Like, how could you hold this back from me? And, you know, kind of cuts things off with her and was like, I need space. And so that really devastated her, and she really wants to be with him. And then this whole, like, he's already on his way to, like, kind of forgiving her. But then a whole thing happens. Like, one of the things I loved is him and Hank, like, really bonding and getting to know each other. And him realizing, like, I could have, like, a real father for the first time in my life. And so I loved that. And then sorry, this cat is going crazy on the couch right now. And so, but what ends up happening is a huge fire breaks out in his like barns and his like stables. And so she rushes there, and he wasn't there. And she is like, his sister is like freaking out because Loki and the mother, like other mare, are in the very back, and she needs to get him because she's like, if he loses Loki, he'll never forgive himself. Because he loves that horse, that foal, so much. Like, their bond throughout this book is just so beautiful. And so, like, she's, like, getting the sister out of there. And she's like, I will get them. But she ends up passing out from the smoke. She gets the horses out, but she passes out and gets, like, a concussion and stuff back there. And so he ends up rushing in and saving her. And he's just, like, losing it. Like, I love you. I love you. He's like, I can't believe I never told her I loved her. The last thing we said was, like, the horrible things that I said to her out of anger. And he's just like, I am not going to lose her. And so, you know, once she wakes up, he is, like, right by her side. And he's like, you know, I love you, you know. So then they, you know, are together. So it was just very, very sweet. I really loved this. Stefan is my favorite hero out of the series. He just is. I love him so much. He's such a sweet, tender billionaire. And I love like that, like they kind of, I think him and Billy end up sharing custody. Billy realizes, she's like, I was wrong about you and I'm sorry. You know, she realizes it. And they end up kind of like sharing custody of Loki because Loki just is like so special to him. So I loved it. I thought it was so fantastic. Again, some of that third act could have like, didn't really need to happen fully, but I kind of believed in it because it was such a big deal to his whole character and her always kind of, she'd never been in really a real relationship. So you could believe in that as like part of their characters too. So it didn't feel like just a third act to throw a third act in there. And I did appreciate that she wasn't hiding the relationship that whole time. So Anyways, I loved it. So this was a success. I feel it's kind of funny that my 5-star predictions, I didn't mean for it to have, like, sometimes you have a 5-star prediction, it really lets you down. And fortunately for me, both these books were fantastic. So both my 5-star predictions were 5 stars. To the Chase was almost a 6-star, but some of the heroine's actions didn't let it be a full 6-star for me. So, but fantastic. I loved these books. So happy I finally got to this one, and I can't wait. I only have one more book to finish in the series and I'll be done. But I also plan on reading Wild Side soon. So hopefully I'll read that and it'll be another 5-star. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching this. Let me know if you've read either of these books and what your thoughts are, if you love them as much as me. Love to hear from you guys, and I appreciate all your support. So I will see you guys on the next vlog.